Okay, everybody. Sorry it's been a while. I was sick with the flu and nobody wants to see that. I haven't attempted to answer any questions. And one that I want to answer today is about dating. And the person who asked it was just talking about how, in her own experience, it seems like dating in gay dating seems to be a lot more sexually charged. It moves a lot faster. Um, and she asks, is did you have do you seem to have that experience? And I guess just my thoughts on that. And I think I know, what you're talking about. I mean, I feel that it does move a lot faster um, when you're dating somebody of the same gender, and I think that there's lots of reasons why. Um, First of all, I mean, in my own experience, when I was dating girls, it was never a temptation for me. I mean, I any move that I made was had to be very carefully thought out, and it was very forced. I had to really put a lot of, I don't know, thinking and effort into doing something, even as something as simple as holding hands or, you know, heaven forbid kiss. I mean, that those things were really difficult for me. They didn't come naturally, and so there was never any of that temptation. Um, Whereas now that I'm dating guys, that temptation is there. I have those feelings, and I need to deal with those, and that's new for me. It's In a way, it's kind of like experiencing your adolescence for the first time, and in my case, and I think in a lot of people's cases, where you don't come to terms with your sexuality until later in life. Now I'm out of the house. I have my own place. The people that I'm dating live, away from home, and we're all experiencing this adolescence outside of a structured environment. Whereas, when you're young, you're living at home, and there's a lot more structure and, um, I mean, you're not going to have a lot of time where you can be by yourselves alone, in your own house or whatever, because you are living with family. And so it's structured in that way. And I think also you have a lot more clear definitions and structure that society and religion is giving you when you're, in a heterosexual relationship. I mean, if you're Mormon, you believe in staying chaste until marriage. Well, then you try to apply that to a gay relationship, and you can't get married. I mean, getting married is just as wrong as having a homosexual relationship, even if you could get married. And so, you start to have to deal with these issues where you realize you don't have very much structure. Things don't apply the same way. Um, and I think that that's one of the many benefits of the church supporting gay marriage, is because then all of a sudden those definitions can be applied to homosexual relationships, and there is a structured environment within which you can um, build healthy relationships. You know, and when you just say that everything you do in a homosexual relationship, like any just having a relationship, is wrong, then if you've decided that you're going to pursue a homosexual relationship, it's all wrong anyway. And I know we shouldn't justify ourselves or anything, but there are no boundaries, there are no lines. It's just all of a sudden you're wrong all the time. So it almost seems like it doesn't matter. But I think that it does matter, and that's why I think you need to come up with your own set of rules or standards, since there aren't. there is no set out there for you to just pick up and adopt. Um, you have to decide what your boundaries are going to be and what your rules are going to be. And I've done that for myself. And, some of those rules maybe, have come from, um, learning the hard way. And others I made, on my own, just kind of adapting them from what I knew growing up as a Mormon. Um, for me, whenever I'm going on a first date, or any number of, first dates until I feel comfortable, I keep it somewhere public, somewhere where we can talk and get to know each other. It's I don't make first dates at one of our houses, movie night. Um, when you're one on one, it can get, dangerous. And you may think that you have control and everything, but when you're in that situation and, your feelings are there and, it's not like dating someone of the opposite gender where you're having to force yourself to even do anything. It all comes naturally, very naturally, and you have to. The opposite is true. You have to, like, stop yourself from doing things that maybe you don't want to get into. So yeah, I try to keep it public somewhere. I keep it planned. The time is limited, um, and I do that until I feel comfortable that we can be together alone and have the self control, I guess, to um, be together and not go places we don't want to. And I think that comes after you kind of both figured out, I guess, both of your ideas of how you want your relationship to proceed and what boundaries you want to set for yourselves. Another thing to think about um, is, I mean, if you're straight and you're watching this, think about how hard it would be to go out in public on a date um, with somebody of the same sex. When we go out on a date, if it's obvious that we're on a date, if we're flirtatious or whatever, holding hands or anything that a normal, date would look like, we get stares, people whisper and point, and I mean, it's really uncomfortable to be out in public on a date. Um, and so I think that discourages people from, going out in public. And so they end up having more dates, in places where people don't see, places that are alone. And that's where people get into trouble. And I think that same thing would happen with, heterosexual couples if they felt like they couldn't be out in public comfortably and they felt like the only place they could be is somewhere in private, they would get in a lot of trouble too. Um, so if you're straight and you're watching this, keep that in mind and, like, try, as hard as it might be, try not to, like, stare or point or make comments because it just discourages us from, wanting to go on a normal date. And if you're gay and you're watching this, try not to let that bother you. Try to ignore it and to make that effort to go out in public places and go out on a date and, just, I know it's uncomfortable sometimes, but, it's you're gonna like how things turn out a lot better if you do that than if you start off meeting in private places. I also keep, well, I'd like to save sexual intercourse for, you know, a commitment like marriage. And obviously I won't necessarily be able to get married, but I think that if the commitment is equal, I mean, maybe if you have a commitment ceremony where you're both making promises to each other and you know that you're both on the same page, um, at that point, I feel like I would be able to move forward in that relationship. But those are my rules, and that may or may not work for you. Maybe you need higher standards. Maybe you need lower ones. It's that's a personal choice, but I think that it's an important thing that you set those for yourself, no matter what those rules are, and stick with them because you'll just be disappointed in yourself if you're doing things that you feel like you know better than to do. So good luck out there, and hopefully this helped. And continue asking questions. That was a great one.